just a question which relates to part that Councillor Lee brought up previously in the general part, was about in the Māori impact statement, particularly in paragraph 16, it talks about developing an understanding of what could amount to a matter of significant cultural relevance to iwi. Can you explain that a bit better to me? This is quite general.
Sure. Through the Chair, that's very, very broad. Through the work that we've been doing, whether it be the consultation that we do for property that's being considered for disposal, our regular hui with iwi, ongoing work with iwi, we are developing an understanding of areas of cultural significance and what may amount to cultural significance. So, for example, it might be in some areas, again, I'll actually go back to the Nihil example. What was raised was the notable tree that was on the site, and that through the process we actually, because of the feedback we received, we sought to ensure it was protected. So cultural significance is very, very broad, and we've gained, I think what we're trying to say in this paragraph is we've gained a greater understanding of what that may be area by area, and we also incorporate the feedback that we receive. Yeah.
A couple of questions, right? So you're not trying to create a priority ratings scorecard or anything like that, are you?
Can I get some feedback on that and get back to you?
Yeah, yes please, you can. So then it would bring me to attachment C, which then, looking at page 49, number 7, iwi feedback, Roman numeral 4, Te Aki Tai Waiahua confirmed cultural interest and provided advice that the subject site is associated with the broad area of Te Ruahine, a Te Aki Tai Waiahua settlement. So, taking on board what you just said, and that comment, how are you giving effect to that?
Through the Chair, unfortunately the statement is quite broad and quite high level. That was the feedback verbatim we received. Should the property be disposed for approved for disposal, we would further engage with them and possibly have conditions on the sale. And again, if there's any commercial interest, we'd further negotiate with them.
If I could just follow up on that as well. With some of the general comments that we've received, we've followed up in the past to understand if there's something more specific that we can do, and iwi have advised us that they simply want their connection with the area noted.
Yeah. So this is reasonably specific though, isn't it? Te Aki Tai Waiahua associated with Te Ruahine. So
there was no specific feedback about what we could potentially do with the site to recognise this interest. As Anthony's pointed out, if it's approved for sale, we will go back and ascertain if there's anything specific we could do, but we haven't been advised of anything at this point.
So, Mr. Chairman, just again, my question is that if it is approved for sale without knowing the consequences of what that actually means in terms of how you're going to give effect to recognition of that association with the Te Ruahine, and then after the fact that there's a decision here made, right, to do so, and there's encumbrances because of that on the sale, we should be knowing that stuff, shouldn't we? We should be knowing if you're actually selling half the property or all the property, because half of it may be encumbered for whatever reasons because of this cultural interest and the matters raised by Te Aki Tai. I sort of feel like the horse is already bolted if we approve the sale today without even having the full information of what that actually means in the context of giving effect to paragraph 16 in your main report and number 7, Roman numeral 4 in the attachment C. I find it very difficult to understand how we can make a decision not knowing any encumbrances or restrictions on that property.
Through the Chair, yes, through the Chair, we have not received any specific feedback. We've received a general cultural interest and we've put it in verbatim as we've received it. We do follow up when we receive this feedback, but we haven't received anything further stating specific areas of interest. So we can only go on the information that we've received.
So can I ask this question, Mr. Chairman? What did you do when you found this out to seek further feedback, specific feedback that may affect this disposal of this property? Have you done anything?
Through the Chair, we'll have to investigate what further discussions. We don't have them available at the moment.
So, Mr. Chairman, I got to say that without that information, it makes it really difficult to be able to decide what encumbrances are on this property we're disposing of. So, and I have to say that's a general statement for this kind of response related to these properties. We should be having, I mean, you're going out with a recommendation to dispose of, right? In my view, there's a likelihood that it will get a majority numbers to do so. Then you're going back for a conversation, well, what does that mean about Te Ake Tai Wāhua? I think you should have had that conversation with Te Ake Tai Wāhua on the basis that you are recommending for sale, that it is sold. If it is sold or is confirmed by resolution here, what will that mean, Te Ake Tai? We should know that stuff. And we're not being good governance members without knowing that kind of decision making, well, that kind of information to give effect to decision making. I think it's, it's cart for horse stuff. You got to run the wrong way. And my strong encouragement through you, Mr. Chairman, is when this type of information comes through this process, we should be getting the specific information that's relevant to the property because of the effects it may have on the disposal of the property. So I think I made my point clear. Whether I'm agreed to or not is another matter, but I will continue to pursue this line because I think it's important. And I think you're sort of saying, well, we're taking an interest in what Māori want, but you're actually not really, because you haven't done anything about it since finding out that there is an issue with it.
Through
Thank
the
you, Mr.
chair,
Chairman.
if I could just reiterate, it's been broad, it was the subject site is associated with the broad area. It's not site-specific cultural interest. Now, we do follow up and say, is there anything specific that you'd like us to do? We haven't received anything further. Without going back, and we can't confirm the dates or anything that we have followed up because we don't have that information to hand here. But we do always follow back when there's any general interest. We haven't received anything site-specific for the site.
Okay. Well, the reason I raise it, Mr. Chairman, is because I'm aware there is issues with it, and that's why I'm concerned about if it's been said they're not getting the further information from Te Ake Tai. Yet Te Ake Tai are concerned about it. It says breakdown somewhere, and I will find out myself. But I definitely want to see evidence around the follow-up. What mechanisms are used and the timing of such, Mr. Chairman. Just to see the process.
Yep.
Thank you.
So just so we're quite clear there, Member Taupo, so that's where the wording is basically confirmed cultural interest.
It gives a reference to Te Ruahine, which is, in my view, specific. The notes of the words broad, I don't know if that's an interpretation of the officers who wrote this report or that's the actual wording that Te Ake Tai gave. So that's one thing I'm not clear on, right? But when they made a reference to Te Ruahine, that to me becomes specific. And so to the extent of what that is in effect to Te Ruahine, I don't know. And it seems no one else does either. So again, I'm trying to figure out, well, what did we actually do to find that out? Now I'm just asking for the evidence of that, the dates, so I can have a look at that to be clear about the process, because I don't want to keep asking this type of question every time. But I think it's an important time to make that statement, particularly as I read paragraph 16 in the Māori Impact Statement and the generalised nature of dealing with or the broad delivery of it. I was saying we're addressing cultural matters, and I'm still not clear on that either.
Through the chair, we'll follow up. We don't have the details to hand. As I'm sure you'll appreciate, we do a substantial amount of iwi engagement, and it's generally managed by Anthony and someone else in the team, and we just don't have the details of this one to hand of dates and specifics, but we can follow up with you on that.
So just lastly, Mr. Chairman, on that basis, because I don't have that information, I'm likely to object to this matter. Thank you.
So the wording over the page from Ngāti Teata is
Tribe.
I know that, but similar wording to a degree, although, has confirmed general cultural interest in the area.
But so
Just trying to
well,
say-
yeah, I know, but the one, if I may, the one
Yep,
before it
yep.
says confirmed cultural interest, not general, provided by is with the broader area of Te Ruahine. You don't know which part of that interest is the part of Te Ruahine because we haven't got the further information back. That's all I'm saying. Now, if there's correspondence to say from Te Akitai that says, oh no, we're just a general statement, we're not really interested anymore, it's all fine, that's fine. But if there's no communication about what that interest is, and there's nothing being shown about doing something about it, then that's an issue for me, Mr. Chairman. It's just following through on the kōrero of the people that you're talking to, just like you would with any other person you engaged with on these types of things.
Councillor Cooper.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do support this, but I do think that this just raises a wider question about this whole process, because often people want to know a lot more detail that can be, that can't possibly be furnished yet with any of these processes, because it's our process. I don't think Panuku said, oh, we'll only do this much. I can't remember how it was developed, but the issue here is, how much do you do before this is even approved for sale? And we've got some things that people go, we want it, the last item and another item that's going to come in December. Everybody wants to know exactly what you're going to do with it. Well, you don't know until you are available. Panuku can't start negotiating or talking to a lot of people until they actually know whether it's worth doing it. And so it comes down to resources. And I think we have to decide how much money and time do we want to spend on these proposals before we even decide to do them? Because we could be spending hundreds, probably $1 million, or maybe basically so much money that it actually negates the benefit of doing this. And that's where I think we have to have a bit of good faith in this. What I've seen so far is, if we approve for sale and then there's an issue, it usually comes back to us to say, look, well, this is it, but we've come up against this, now we need to do this, what do you want us to do? And I think these things take a long time, but we need to actually be able to get them on the table. They've done all the preliminaries, and then we go, okay, do we want to do it? Then the hard work really starts. And so for me, I'm concerned that we'd never get anything to the table if we ask for so much information, and then quite possibly a whole lot of the stuff would never go ahead anyway, and we've just wasted a whole lot of money. So that's where I think there's a fine balance, and it's understandable that people want to know, but I suppose what I want to know is, are there enough checks and balances that if you come up against a roadblock, we can stop it at a certain point, we can always rescind, or we can just say, right, go another tack? That's really my question, that we've got some checks and balances. If we haven't got this now, we get it later.
Through the chair, yes, absolutely, and you'll see this all the time yourself, actually, being chair of the hearings committee.
Yeah. Thank you. So I guess, Mr. Chairman, that's why I will support, because I'm not going to, do this where you go, oh, well, I'll sell this one, want to sell this one because the local board don't like it, but I'm really happy to sell everything else, because it becomes a political issue rather than looking at the facts. And so I just really support this. We don't need to have, detailed plans before we even make a decision to go ahead.
Okay,
Or
and
detailed
I hear what you're
discussions.
saying, Councillor Cooper, and I agree with you by and large. But the move and the second, we want to park number B for another month, and that's out of respect for process and the Independent Borough Statutory Board, and especially Te Akitai to give further feedback. But we will defer B for a month, and it'll come back at the next month's. Unless someone else wants to move it as to be included still, but I don't think that's the mood around the table, so I think we just pull it. Yeah. So therefore, we're not going to discuss B again, so therefore we've got C, D and E, which is now going to become B, D and B, C and D. So is there any further discussion on any of those matters? Sorry.
No,
Polpana.
Chair, just as a result of what you've just said, I'm happy with that,
Councillor
with that
Casey?
option. So please take my name off
Thank
that.
you, Al.
Likewise, I just think ihu mātou and to be thorough is what we are here for. Thanks, David, that's good. Respectful.
Okay, so we now have a new B, a new C, and a new D.
But they're the same.
Have we changed it? Or do we want to defer it? Yeah. Oh, we'll it'll stay, we're just going to defer, so. All right, so we're going to put B, C, D and E. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Right, thank you, folks.
Thank you, Mr Chair.
Right, let's move on to the Voss building and yard, or we could have lunch,
Yeah, I think so.
because I think it could go on a little bit, Noel, so I'm going to ask members to be back here at quarter past by that clock there. So please look at your own whatever. Okay, 20 minutes for lunch, it's more than enough.
vested interest there. I can't take antibiotics until